right now. Okay, well, welcome everybody. We'd like to ask you to please put on your camera unless it is an impossibly challenging situation. I think that it makes for better learning. So if you would kindly put on your videos, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Maximilian, much appreciated. Thank you, Pooja from India. Michael, thank you, Joseph, thank you, Peyton, thank you, Rabia, thank you, Jayla, thank you, Joey, thank you. Let's see, we have Rachel coming in. Lots more people. Thank you, Trey. Thank you, Rachel, again. Thanks again for coming back, Rachel. Sorry to have done that earlier thing. Joseph, thank you. Let's see, we have a couple more people coming in. I recognize that name. That is Karen. Great. Joseph and Kaya. Is that how you say it, Kaya? Sonnen? Kaya? Maybe pronouncing it incorrectly.
It's Kaya.
Kaya, sorry, Kaya.
Kaya.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you. And where are my other peeps here? Marine, there's Jehovah. Hello, Jehovah. Reshmi, can we see you, Reshmi? Is it possible? Isha, Shirley, Ainsley, Jana, or Jana. There we go. Thank you, Marcine. Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Shirley. Good, Reshmi. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jana. Thank you so much. Hello, hello, Maximilian. Ainsley, just a couple more people. If it's possible, James and Mobosola, if you could kindly come on video, we would love to see you. Okay, it's 3 minutes past. We are going to get started. So my name is Omar Ali. I serve as Dean of Lloyd International Honors College, and this is part of the Let's Learn the World as a Classroom, a project that is in collaboration with the Eastside Institute and also the Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society is helping to co-sponsor our classes going forward. And I'm joined here by both Dr. Jim Martinez, but also Dan Friedman. Dr. Friedman is my partner in this project. He is project manager for Let's Learn, which is a series of classes on a whole range of topics, everything from science and cooking to poets. And what we do is we have a philosophy that everybody has something to teach and everyone has something to learn, something my father actually sort of instilled in my thinking. And so we've been talking to people around the world and having courses for the last year and a half. And this is our latest. And so with that, let me hand things over to my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Dan Friedman. Dano.
Hello, everyone. Welcome from wherever you're from. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I just wanted to say one more line or two about why I'm so excited about Let's Learn, because it's a new way of approaching education. It's free. All of the teachers are volunteers. There are no grades. There are no degrees. People come because they're interested in the subject. They're curious. They want to meet new people. They want to have new experiences. And our teachers, who are both academics like Dr. Martinez and Dr. Ali, but also, people who know traditional Chinese medicine, for example, or chefs, or people who know the histories of their communities and want to share that. The teachers are all people who want to share something they know because they love it. And today's class is particularly interesting, I think, because it's about education, which is what Let's Learn is all about. So it's actually us taking a look at the very subject that we're engaging, how to teach and learn and develop in new and better ways. And I couldn't think of a better person to lead us in this first workshop on that subject at Let's Learn than Dr. Jim Martinez, who is Associate Professor of Interdisciplinary Studies and Sciences at the New York Institute of Technology. He's also a longtime community activist and an innovative grassroots educator who has done a lot of interesting stuff with this very subject. So I'm very excited that he's here to share his experience and his insights and his methodology with us. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Jim Martinez to lead us in this, what I think is going to be a really interesting workshop.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Omar. It's such a pleasure to be here today, and it's a real pleasure to start associating some of the faces with the names. I kind of know my students from their names, from all the emails and from the interactions on Canvas, and I'm just so happy to actually see the faces and see new faces from names that I don't recognize. And I imagine those are the ones that are coming in from Lloyd Honors College, as well as, let me just take a quick look, see if there's anybody else that I see out there. I think I recognize a couple of names out there, but we'll get to names in a second. So I'm going to be sharing some slides with you, and we're going to have an interactive workshop, and you can use the chat to put in questions. If you're one of my students and you're worried about attendance, I will get a list of everybody who attended at the end of this so that you're taken care of. This is a big group activity for today. We'll be breaking out into small breakout groups as we start to engage some of the topics that we're covering today. So I would like to share the first of my slides with you, and then we'll get into some of our activities. The slides are more or less my script, and so we do have a plan, but if we go off a plan, it's not a problem. So hold on a second. Let me share that screen with you. Okay, so hopefully you see the title shot for this workshop, Reimagining Education. How do we go about it? A lot of times when I talk to people about education, they say, well, we've got to fix it. And I'm all for that, except that having been in education for 20 years now, or more than 20 years, I was in information technology before I was in education. It seems that we can't fix it. We can do some other things, but fixing it doesn't seem to be the thing that happens. So as I start to sort of talk about education, I just want to give you the plan for the workshop for today. The minutes are just there to sort of generally keep track of what I'm supposed to be doing. But we're going to play a game in a minute, and I'm going to tell you how to play that game. And then we're going to get into the rest of the slides. And then we're going to have workshop activities and a debriefing and Q&A at the end, as well as some final thoughts. Now, if there are questions that come up while I'm talking, or questions that come up during the session, please use the chat, and we'll sort of take care of that, or raise your hand if you need to, and get it out, and we will take care of that as well. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and go back to my full screen. So let's play our first game. It's a real simple game, and it'll be the first of a couple of games that we'll play today. The first game is called Where Are You? And what we will do is call out someone's name, and I'll start by saying, hi, my name is Jim, and I am in Jersey City, New Jersey at home. Omar, where are you?
I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina. Shirley, where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Peyton, where are you?
I'm in Greensboro in my dorm. Kaya, where are you?
Sorry. I'm in Greensboro and I am in my room at my house. Ainsley, where are you?
I'm in Greensboro. Michael, where are you?
I'm in Old Westbury, New York, in a classroom. Trey, where are you?
Hi, I'm in New York, in Manhattan, in the business department, sorry. That's where I'm at. Karen, where are you?
Karen?
You're on mute, Karen.
Well, I had to unmute I'm in New York City in my apartment, which is being renovated right now. I'm in the bedroom so that if there's noise going on in and out, so I'm going to be turning my volume up and down to try to block out my noise. But I'm in New York City. Let's see. Maximilian, have you said where you're from?
Hi, I'm Max. I'm in Old Westbury at NYIT. Ravia, where are you?
Hi, I'm right behind you in Long Island in Ed Hall. Joseph, where are you?
I'm in the Old Westbury campus in one of the pods. So, William, where are you?
I'm in Queens, New York, in my room. Isha, where are you?
I'm in the Old Westbury campus right outside of class. Rashmi, where are you?
I am in Old Westbury campus as well. I'm in Anna. I live on New York Institute of Technology. Jana, where are you?
I am in Greensboro, North Carolina. Rachel, where are you?
I'm in Westfield, North Carolina, at home. Pooja, where are you?
I'm in India, Gujarat. Joey, where are you?
I'm in the Mahan Library. Jayla, where are you?
Oh, I'm at UNCG Greensboro. I'm in my dorm.
Raise your hands if you haven't gone yet, so it's easier to figure out who's left. Okay, the page over to your second screen. We've got a hand up there.
I do not know how to pronounce your name, but is your last name Phineas? I'm so sorry. It says KOJ.
Yeah, people call me Phineas. I'm in the Bronx in the Rebbe's Healing Arts Studio. And I don't know who else is left. I'll pass the ball to anyone whose hand is up, but I don't see anything.
Mihareen?
Right now, I'm in the NYIT Manhattan campus. I'm in the library.
Okay. And is there anyone else who hasn't gone yet? Mobosola?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Mobosola. I am in UNC Greensboro right now in one of the college classrooms. So.
Okay. Great. All right. Anybody else? Paging through screens here. This is fabulous. I don't see anyone. Great. Great job. You guys are really great because you did that without actually having any clues and you remembered everything. So that's wonderful. So that's a little improv game. It's easy. Anybody can participate. And that's an important part of reimagining education, creating an environment where anybody can participate and what they're bringing is who they are and what they've done. And we're always looking for that in the environments that we create. The other thing about improv games is that the idea is to keep them simple, keep them where your goal is to make your partner in the game look good, right? And so setting them up to do something that they know how to do well is really important in an improv game, as well as creating a game that challenges them to be outside their comfort zone. So you may feel a little bit challenged about being outside your comfort zone in this workshop, and we're going to just ease into that. And so this is an easy way to begin. So I'm going to go back to my slides for a few minutes and basically tell you some stories about education and about some of the projects that I've done in education to get you thinking about what the differences between reforming education and reimagining education might be, right? Are there any questions or anything that anybody wants to say at the moment? If you do have questions, again, you can use the chat or you can raise your hand, or you can sort of, I don't know if you can turn off you can unmute yourself and just start talking at me, and then I'll notice that you want my attention. Okay, so sharing my screen again, and you should all see the plan for the workshop. And okay, so who am I? As Dan mentioned, I'm an associate professor at the New York Institute of Technology. I'm also a permanently licensed elementary school teacher. So I taught 3rd grade, I taught 1st grade, I taught middle school. I did that for about 7 years after I had my career in technology. I'm on the advisory board of Let's Learn, and Let's Learn, what you're experiencing right now, is an experiment in education, which I couldn't say no to. I'm a busy guy, but this is one of the things that I stop what I'm doing, and I do this because I firmly believe that the future education is in this direction that we're creating right now. I'm also the co-chair of the Cultivating Ensembles Conference in STEM Education and Research. I'm a conference organizer. And so I've got a conference that I'm actually doing with Lloyd International Honors College, November 10th and 11th. And that is organizing academics, professors like the ones that you have, graduate students, and other people who are in the education spaces and in the science spaces. And it's my pleasure to sort of be engaged in this creating ensembles activity that creates new possibilities for education all over the world, right? This is an international conference. And then I'm also an Eastside Institute associate, and that is an organization that is a think tank for new approaches to human mental health, social engagement, and education. And I'm the co-founder of Collective Infrastructures that I'll talk about in a little bit. These are the 2 books that I wrote. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about today with you guys is in these 2 books. One is a performatory approach to teaching, learning, and technology. That's about my experiences in elementary education and middle school. And Search for Method in STEAM Education is actually work that I did at New York Institute of Technology with undergraduates there that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Breaking news. American students are participating in a system controlled by the government and billionaires that teaches them what to think and how to think. I've been spending a lot of time on social media lately, and everything is breaking news. And so, what I'm saying here is not untrue. And I want to introduce you to 2 pieces of legislation that actually impacted all of your lives if you've been in school over the last 20 years. No Child Left Behind was a new law that was put into place as I was entering the teaching profession. And what that law basically did was make everybody in the educational system accountable. And so what that means is that students got tested more than they'd ever been tested in the history of humankind, right? And what that also meant is that teachers who did not have master's degrees in education needed to go back to school and get master's degrees in education. I got one as I entered the profession, and I was actually teaching as I was learning and earning my master's degree. It also created choices for parents and put reading as a priority, and gave school districts some flexibility attached with some money. So there's always money in this story, all right? And as I was taught by a private investigator who was a colleague of mine when I was back in my startup days, always follow the money. It will explain a lot. And so we have that law in place until 2015 when they decided, well, you know, it's not really been a success because people are cheating, people are not performing the way we want to, and this is not popular. Barack Obama comes in I guess, and his administration creates the Every Student Succeeds Act. And basically, that's just another reform or an update. It's an emphasis on equity, which is great. And it's more accountability and more high academic standards. So that translated into what for you? Think about kind of your experiences in high school, in middle school, a lot of testing, a lot of expectations, a lot of looking at the outcomes. Breaking news. School is for what purpose? It is for the purpose of jobs and careers. That's it, folks. I'll let that sink in for a second. Governments and corporations influence what's taught. You may not know this, but I discovered this in my research for the search for method, is that the government works with corporations, and corporations create business roundtables to help the government figure out what is needed in education in terms of majors. And so if you are a STEM major, there's a reason that has been pushed at you, and there's been a lot of money available in the system, in the educational system, to support the development of STEM majors. And this all goes into using our educational system to get the outcome of what the business and government need from young people in our population, right? What is the experience of this? Well, you can speak to that better than I can. If you're feeling stress in school, this contributes to that stress. There is no reforming of this system. Let me restate that. All we can do is reform the system. You know how you get a new iPhone every couple of years or every 18 months? It's still an iPhone, right? But it's just an iPhone with more stuff in it that's still very expensive. Well, that's what education is in this country, is the same thing, the same basic idea with more stuff in it. Right? And what we're talking about today, what Let's Learn is, what I try to do in my teaching is create innovation that happens outside of the system, create innovation that happens in the system since you're captive in it, and that's where you are. So how do we go about it? Here's the punchline. We play, we perform, and the activism is learning. I just found that picture this morning. I thought it was brilliant because I've learned a lot as I became an activist about 26 years ago, when I discovered a group of activists who were out there in the world creating talent shows for young people like yourselves that helped reorganize them because school was failing them. And I always thought that was a positive thing, and I became involved in fundraising and supporting and doing workshops for young people 25 years ago, and that's how I got into education, through the All Stars Project. And so the All Stars Project is an organization, allstars.org, that emphasizes performance for human development. And so I try to bring performance and play into this system, and that's my activism. That's what it looks like. And so my goal is to encourage all my students to be activists in the places that they want to be activists, and understanding that play and performance are useful. So here's my evidence, right? I said something about cultivating ensembles. There's the group, right? We create the group every 2 years to produce an academic conference. It's all volunteers. And so a lot of those people will show up every 2 years and help produce the conference. Students can be invited to that conference, and we can talk about that if anybody isn't interested. It will be virtual this year. It's usually face-to-face. The important thing here, the takeaway, is that we learn in groups. We actually can't learn by ourselves. We learn in relationships with people in groups, and hopefully we'll do some of that today. We also have an opportunity in this kind of group to mentor other people in the group, and we have an opportunity to support their leadership. So at one point in time, I was just kind of person in the crowd in the group, and I showed up to the conference. Now, 10 years later, I'm co-chairing the conference. It's kind of like I grew up and became a leader of the conference, and I was very happy to be asked to do that. Here's a project that I did with NYIT students in 2012. I was still a new professor, and I had a lot of ideas, and I had just come out of the public schools, and I said, public schools need something new. And so what I did is I brought in a service learning program students from the engineering college into the public school. And this is some of what that looked like. So they were at the classrooms, working with students in their small groups. They were taking pictures of the students and interviewing them about what they hope to accomplish in their lives. What do you want to be when you grow up? I worked with teachers very closely to gain their trust, right? So creating trust in your relationships is really important to developing human beings. And they allowed us to come into their school. And then we had a performance at the end of our project, at the end of the semester, where NYIT students got up on a stage with some of the teachers and talked about what that experience had been like for them. And they were on a panel. They were like experts. So they were performing ahead of themselves as future leaders and academics and people who are out to change the world. And so sometimes you get up on a stage and you talk and you take questions from people in the audience. And so that was a first-time experience for these students. So they were out of their comfort zones. And finally, my most recent project, again with NYIT students and a professor from architecture. There's Professor Gandhi right there. She kind of looks like one of the students. We built a storm station. That's this creation over to the lower right-hand side. Storm station is a response to the crisis that most of the world's population are in due to severe climate hazards. And so this new creative activity of mine, I got invited to do something about the response to Puerto Rico and Maria and the hurricanes. Professor Gandhi had created the storm station, and we took a team of students down to Puerto Rico, January 2020, and we built Storm Station in 9 days. It was really exciting. We worked with the community. It's placed in a community garden. And I returned last June to do some maintenance work. And there was a young person, he's not in school, and he's a special needs child, and they don't have a lot of special needs programs in Puerto Rico. And so he watched me start fixing, and he watched me do it a couple of times, and then he wanted to do it himself, and I showed him how to use the tools. And so he is fixing and doing some maintenance on Storm Station. Storm Station collects rainwater in the community, and it creates solar energy from the solar panels, and people can charge their phones. And it was a good thing that I went down and did the maintenance, because Storm Station was used in Fiona when the community didn't have power. And so at the end of the day, we have everything that we can bring to a situation, and then we create something new, right? So that's the other part of it, is the creating something new. So that brings us to our first breakout activity. So now you have an idea of what I mean when I'm reimagining education, and the actual kind of outcomes, if you will, of following through on what I say and what I mean and what that looks like. So these are 3 educational innovations that are not reforms to education, but happen outside and inside this educational system that we're all participating in. So let me pause for a second, take a sip. If there are any questions or anything, now would be a good time.
Jim, I have a question.
Yep.
How do you suggest, in some ways, empowering our students to help to organize their professor to consider some of these things? Because I think that, you know, they're fortunate they have you, you're very open and playful. But in some ways, I feel like, you know, a lot of times, I remember as a student myself many decades ago, I felt like, well, this is just kind of what it is. So sometimes you had a great professor, other times you don't have such a great professor, but maybe, I don't know if if you have any suggestions where in some ways they can make a little bit of a demand to try to do something slightly different, so it's not so constrained, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I don't know what it's like everywhere, but I know that a lot of people have projects as a requirement in a course. And I would say that if you, as a student, wanted to do a project in your community, and you propose to your professor doing your project in whatever as a community project, I think that you can do a lot of different things within the context of what your professor expects you to do, and talk about it in those terms. It's like, well, I'm interested in, you know, some computer science thing, and I'd love to build something that can be used in my community or something. So I think locating your project in a community setting, and it can even be within the college's community setting, all of a sudden transforms it into not just some theoretical thing that you're doing, but a practical thing that you're doing as well. So and then the other thing is that experiential education, which is what service learning is not uncommon in higher education. And so talking as a student to your director of experiential learning or somebody in that department, their job is to engage faculty in experiential learning pedagogy, right? So the idea would be to encourage the people in that office to talk to people in certain departments about encouraging more of that. And at my institution, when I did my project, experiential learning blew up at the institution. And I was able to help them get money as a professor. And that money then gets pushed out to the faculty to encourage them with stipends to engage the community. And then you operationalize it as a thing that becomes part of the institution's mandate, for innovative education. The challenge there is that it becomes so operationalized and it becomes not fun for professors like myself. But to the extent that it creates scaffolding for professors to engage this. So I would say as students, you should find your office of experiential learning and show up and say, we'd like more of that because there's a professor at NYIT that does it really good. And the students are having a good time. By the way, all the students who engage in those projects are still in touch. They've called me for references. They talk about their experiences with potential employers on job interviews. A lot of job interviews want to see the community engagement. They want to see the service to community. So this is a fantastic way for students to really add something to their resumes and CVs.
This might be self-evident, especially to those who've engaged in it. But could you say a little more, Jim, about why a project which like building a storm shelter is educational?
Sure. So a couple of things happen while we're doing that. We're engaging the community. So that means that students are getting a chance to practice interview skills. You're doing interview skills no matter what your major will be, no matter what your job will be. Your job will always include some aspect of sitting down with a client, sitting down with a coworker, and asking questions. So part of that is that you don't walk into a community and just start building stuff. You engage the community, you have conversations, you organize and coordinate, do the logistics. So the students were in charge of how are we going to get all the equipment and stuff that we need down there? How are we going to get that and source it on the island? Students did all of that work. In addition to the physical building of the thing, they had to read the plans. So if you're an architecture student, that was a very useful thing for you. We had communication majors and engineering majors who did part of their thing down there as well in terms of the technology and talking about the project, documenting the project. So all these ways that you have to communicate and coordinate are real world professional skills that you're developing that you don't get to develop when you're reading the assignment, writing the assignment in a classroom.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so breakout activity number one. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to break you out into groups, and we're going to first, in your groups, in your small groups, you're going to play another improv game. I'm going to model that game. Then you're going to, let's model the game right now. So I'll ask for Omar and Dan to help me a little bit. So the name of this game is called Collective Story. And what we will do is we will tell a story, one sentence each person. So each person contributes one sentence. And the idea of this game is that you say yes and then you add your sentence, and then the next person adds their sentence. In this game, you're always trying to look good. So you want to speak slowly and clearly so people can understand you. You want to accept what people are saying in the story. You don't want to change what they're saying. If Omar says John gets out of bed, and then it's my turn, I'm going to say yes, and then he went to the bathroom to brush his teeth. I don't put him back into bed, simply because that doesn't help the story go forward. It's a fictional story. There's no truth. A dragon can jump in through the window. It's about creating a story. So avoid saying no, but, or yes, but, because those are also forms of negation. Okay, so we'll show you the game, and then you'll get the hang of it. So every story needs a title. And so I usually ask for a volunteer to give a title to the story. No volunteers to give a title to the story?
Oh, wait, was that Peyton? Were you going to say something? Take a shot, Peyton.
The day a dragon interrupted my math class.
Okay, great. All right, so I will start, and then I will call the name of the person, the next person who goes, so that they know that they're going, okay? Felicia was sitting in math class, and she was working on a quadratic equation, and she looked up at the window because she heard a noise. Omar.
And all of a sudden, with that noise came a lot of smoke. Dan?
Felicia looked up and let out a terrified scream. Jim, or do we spread it out to the
you come back to me. Yes, and she looked up. Yes, and after she screamed, she realized that her partner, her lab partner, was vaping and just puffed her with a bunch of vape. The end. Okay, so it doesn't have to be great. It can be silly. The idea is that you're creating something that did not exist before. All right. So I will now break you up into groups. You'll have about 7 or 8 minutes to do the following. Create a title for your collective story and play the game. Then I'd like you to have a conversation about what you just heard and experienced. And then I want you to create together a 1-minute performance that you will share when you come back to the group of whatever it is that you created together. Okay, so you may want to take a moment to rehearse once you figured out what your performance will be. All right, any questions about any of that? Okay, let me go to participants and create the breakout room. Breakout rooms. Okay, so there are how many students have we gotten in here?
I think it's 25.
27 actually. Okay, I see it now. So let's do five breakout rooms. I'm going to assign you automatically, and I'm not going to include my co-hosts. Okay. All right, I'll see you in a few minutes. I'll pop in to make sure you're doing okay. Have fun and create something new.
Karen didn't make it to, oh, there she
All right,
goes.
there she goes. Okay.
That was great.
All right. So far so good?
So far so great.
Thanks.
I don't know. How does it that I didn't know that you were an elementary school teacher? That's like, I can't, I don't know how I missed that, but it's in some ways it makes sense because you're so warm and engaging. It makes sense, right? Elementary school teachers are really.
Yeah, you have to learn how to be warm and engaging, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to get those little guys to like you.
Yeah. Exactly. It's great. You know, the story game, I always end up doing it like just like 2 words or 3 words, but there's something nice about having a full sentence. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah. I've learned, I've done it both ways where it's kind of 1 word.
Yeah.
But I think that doing the whole thing kind of is really surprising sometimes for students. And a lot of them have trouble just talking. And so
yeah.
I'll give them a few minutes in their breakout room, and then I'll pop in to just make sure that it's all moving along. Yeah. So that's good. I'm glad that so many of them showed up.
It's good. It's a nice mix. I love the mix because both of our institutions, in terms of UNC Greensboro and NY Institute of Technology, have a very diverse, working class base. And so it's just really nice to see these kids from New York and from North Carolina just in the same space.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's rare that I get to have my Long Island students in the same course with my New York City students, because the 2 campuses are kind of far apart.
Yeah.
And so they come from a different class structure in Long Island than in New York. And so it's really interesting to see them mix up when they do.
Friends, I have to go. I'll see you.
Okay, I will see you soon, and I will go check on my students now.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
And I'll get another cup of coffee.
All right.
All right. See you in a few minutes, Jim. When we come back, it gets re-recorded, right? The recording clicks back on.
Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had a fun time. I popped into some of your sessions and I saw people smiling and talking, and that's always a good thing to discover. And so what we'll do now is you're going to share kind of your performance, right? You've created a new performance, and that performance hopefully will give us something to work with in this workshop. So let's call, I'm just gonna, let me keep track of the groups. I'm gonna start randomly with group 3. So please, everyone, Zoom hands welcoming group 3 to the stage. Sort of welcome group 3 to the stage, group 3. Okay, unmute your mics and do your performance.
Do they do their story or
that they should do whatever it is that their 1-minute performance should they determine that to be.
Oh, okay.
Where are they?
I wasn't paying. Was it me, Ainsley, and
You forgot your group?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I believe that was us. I believe we were group 3, maybe.
Yeah. Everybody who's working with Rachel is group 3, and so go ahead.
Okay. Halloween 2022. It was a dark, foggy night, and a little black cat was strolling down a dark road.
Meow.
The little black cat came across a patch of pumpkins. As she wove through the pumpkins began to follow her. She was confused. And then she came upon a ghost.
And the ghost followed the pumpkins and suddenly shouted out, "Happy Halloween!"
And the cat hissed and ran away.
The end.
Okay, since you may or may not know what group that you were part of, thank you very much for that. Let's get to the second group, group 2. Whoever that was, or whoever pipes up, that will be group 2. I'm not quite sure.
Hi, I was in group 2.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I just want to ask, should I read it out? Because it was a lot, and I just wrote it down. So, does anyone in my group remember what we said other than what I wrote down? Because it just kind of went a little all over the place. So I'll just read it out.
Okay.
One day, Joey went into the woods. Joey looked up into the trees and heard a very scary sound. He let out a scary scream. There were 3 officers behind him. He was then pushed over to nearby police cars. He was then caught for bad things, and this is how it all began. He used a spoon to escape jail. When he left the jail, he went to a local gas station looking for help. Inside, there was a large elephant, an elephant in which he wanted to ride. He then stole the elephant. When he took it, he ran all the way home with it, but ended up dropping the elephant on the floor. That's our story.
Okay, group 1. Group 1.
You just want one person to talk about the story, or do you want all of us to do it?
Well, the idea was to tell the story collectively or to perform collectively. So
Okay.
we're discovering what that looks like.
Okay, so I can start it off. So our story basically starts with a college student named Alicia that is basically studying for her midterm exams, and she basically is really sad about studying for her exams, and she's trying to find happiness in some sort of way.
The end. Is there something, was there anybody in your group want to add to that?
If we do it as a performance, I went next, and I had her sitting in the library and feeling very stressed and looking up and seeing a very cute guy, and she said, "Gee, I would really like to know him."
She shot her shot and she succeeded and got the guy's number.
So then the guy asked her out to dinner and they went to get sushi rolls.
And then at the dinner, Alicia saw that the waiter began to flirt with her, and then she began to contemplate her happiness or what made her happy.
That's it.
The end. Well
Ours
done.
is realistic. There are no elephants.
All right, group number 5.
Okay, I'll start. Okay. Jerry is going to an ACT prep class.
And to prepare for that prep class, he made sure he studied very hard.
He wants to do well on his ACTs because he wants to get into a good college.
And that good college would be Harvard. The end.
You can see what's on people's mind.
Yeah, Halloween. Okay, did I get all the groups? Group 4? Did group 4 go? Peyton's group, okay.
No, we didn't go yet.
Okay, so go ahead.
This is a day in the life of Casey. So it was a bright, sunny day and the clouds were clear and the grass was greener until
she went into her math classroom. When she was entering in the room, she realized that she was not alone. She saw a tall shadow.
She approached the tall shadow and screamed.
She was absolutely terrified and could not believe her eyes.
When she looked in front of her, she recognized the girl that she had grown up with as her best friend. However, this whole situation was made a bit more horrifying by the fact that her best friend had passed away 3 years ago. The end.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Great work. Oh my goodness. Look at what you guys did. That's so let me just share with you from my perspective what that all looked like a little bit, and then maybe you all can share a little bit about kind of your responses to all this. I noticed that sometimes, students, a lot of their created stories kind of end in this bummer note, and I'm not quite sure why that happens, but it happens when I do this online, and it happens when I do it live and in person in the classroom. So your mindsets are kind of interesting. You all got the same exact directions, yet you all came back with vastly different responses to those directions, right? Think about school context, right? You get directions all the time, and then you're judged on what your response is to those directions. Now, I popped into each class or each group, and nobody had questions for me when I popped in. It was like, you all were doing whatever you're doing. And I didn't want to interrupt you with asking if you had any questions. But I know as a professor that if I don't ask if you have questions, you're not going to say anything. So this is part of the system that you're used to working in, is that you know that you don't want to ask questions. Now, the other thing that happens is that you all had a different take on what it meant to talk about what you had just experienced and then do a performance. What I thought I had communicated was that you were going to do a performance about educational experiences, right? You did a wide variety of that, of performances, and one of them was specific, or two of them were specific to education. So that was interesting for me. It's like when you become very loose with the expectations, anything might happen. And that's great too, because I was able to see that happen, and I can always refine that a little bit or leave it that way, because that's the place where we get creative, when we get what we don't expect. What do any of you have some thoughts or some things that occurred to you? Was this a difficult, challenging thing for you to do, or a boring thing for you to do? Say some words.
I think it was like a good experience, like to meet new people. I'm like originally from Jersey, so I don't really know that many people in New York. So like to meet new people that are not just from New York was kind of fun to hear about. And it wasn't really a difficult like situation coming up with the story and stuff. It was actually kind of fun and kind of comical in a way, like at least like to get off my mind about midterms coming up. So it was honestly a good experience.
Good. All right. Any other words or comments or questions?
To like jump off of Rashmi's point, I thought it was like also really creative how we started at like one point. Like for us, it was like a literal normal day, because that's what the title said, and then we had a whole plot twist at the end to see how everyone would jump in. And I think how like everyone has like a piece of creativity that they could add to every single piece, like line of the story, to make it like more fun and enjoyable for everybody.
Good.
To me, it wasn't the story. I was waiting to hear what somebody else had to say. So the interaction was sort of a getting to know the other people, the other four people in the group.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. I don't see any hands up or anybody looking to jump in. So we're going to go to our next activity, breakout activity number 2. Now, so this is going to be slightly different. So I'm going to ask you to look for patterns, right? And look for uniqueness. What you are each going to do is tell your group a very short story about a really positive educational experience that you have had, right? Really short, like not a long drawn out thing, short, 1-2 sentences, right? That's a challenge. But the idea is to highlight the thing about that positive experience that was really important to you. The next thing I would ask you to do is to talk about your group's stories and see if there's any patterns in those stories. See if there's any uniqueness. We want to come up with the common denominators of what seems to make a really good educational experience, okay? So I'm going to send you off into your groups and then elect someone to be the representative of the group to tell us what the group found. You can use the chat if you want to put down some notes as to what goes on in your group. I'm going to give you about 3 to 4 minutes to get this done, maybe 5. Okay, are there any questions about what I'm asking you to do? Okay, great. All right, so let me put you into your groups. You'll be in different groups probably. Breakout rooms. All right, how many people have we got? Or maybe you'll be open all rooms. Okay. Okay. That's always interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really curious what their positive experiences are. I want to hear it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was interesting about the stories, how, and also I must have missed that you said it should be about education, but then a lot of it was. So, I mean, at least the setting was a classroom or something.
Yeah, yeah. That's, you know, I sandwiched it in between I guess the two directions, and sometimes where you put something, you know, people don't notice it. I've noted they will do the last thing they heard you say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I lost a few because some of them have classes scheduled, so.
It is interesting that most of them are undergraduates, your students and Omar's. Then there's a few sprinklings, like Karen, you know, is a UX builder. She and Pooja from India. I don't know what to call her. She comes to almost everything the Eastside Institute does, and she's just a teenager. I don't know, and so for her, it's you know, it's the middle of the night, but she comes to these things anyway. And the guy who calls himself Jehovah, I don't know who he is, but he's not a student, obviously. I think.
Right. Well, I've had students who look like him who were freshmen. They're usually former military.
Yes.
I usually get some of those. Okay. Let me put that in here. Share. Oh, a couple already came back. Back so soon? Okay, let me give everybody a 1-minute warning. Okay, let me close the rooms. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. All right. Let's see. So we had 4 rooms in the breakouts because we lost some of my students who had a class to go to. So let's see. I'm just going to call names and we'll build from there. James. Are you there, James? James is not responding at the moment. All right, let me try Jayla. Jayla, yeah, what did your group do?
We talked about like mainly all of our stories are about like a group, like that was a key theme. Like in everybody's story and like having a common goal. Like I felt like that was what it was for everybody.
Okay, anybody in Jayla's group want to add on to that?
Everyone in the group that they were working with had similar interests, and that's what made the education experience so nice.
What do you mean by similar interests?
Like they both wanted to do good in the project that they were doing. What I mean, and they both had the same idea in mind, the same topic in mind.
Okay. Anybody else in that group? No? Okay, good. Next group. Any representative from the next group?
Well, group 4 had Aisha, Michael, Peyton.
Thank you.
Beth, any of those folks.
I can, yeah. So the commonality we sort of noticed between all of our, I guess, positive experiences we shared. First off, most of them were from high school, and most of them involved like a mentor or a teacher who was very like considerate of these different students' learning speeds and the students' mental health and giving them space for creativity and all of that kind of stuff.
Nice. That's very helpful, especially the last 2 years, right? You all had 2 years of high school in COVID. I mean, that must have been crazy. Group 3?
Ansley, James, Jehovah, Rachel.
Oh, I think they already, okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. One thing that we found that we had in common was there was an environment that wasn't restrictive and it was also very supportive. So we were kind of allowed to be what we wanted to be without feeling like judged all the time. That was the common theme with ours.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay, that's helpful. Very helpful. Group 5?
No, group 5 went first. So now it's group 1, which is Joey, Karen, Rashami, and Trey.
In our like experiences, like pretty much like almost like 3 of us in the group had like experiences that were like positive, which in like a teacher was the one that was kind of mentoring us. But then like Karen was also in our group and she talked about like an experience that also were really positive. So like it was like kind of similar in the fact like we had a teacher that had like made a positive impact, but also I think overall it was just experiences that we all went through.
Yeah, ultimately, I think all of our experiences were more of like a change of outlook in total. So whether it was Karen's experience from the activity that that she was put into, or how the teachers individually introduced us to new outlooks or inspired us in new ways or got us to different potentials, that sort of commonality was what we were introduced to or shared.
Thank you.
And also we go along with what Ainsley said about the
Oh, you muted yourself.
lack of judgment, the acceptance of who and what we were trying to learn. We all had that too.
Good. Is there one more group? That's all the groups.
There was just 4.
Okay, great. Well, you've given us a lot to work with. All right, so I'm gonna improvise the end of this workshop. I had something else that I was planning, but we're running short on time, which is perfectly part of my plan, is to always be prepared to run short. Let's call this kind of like a free kind of thought segment of the workshop. Now you've had the experience. You've created something new. You've had new conversations. You've built new relationships to people. No matter how short these relationships last, they existed. This is part of what I believe reimagining education should be. You actually did a fabulous job both on the improvising and the analysis piece. You all came back with some great analysis on your experiences. So you're clearly prepared for college. So what are your thoughts on this whole workshop? Should I do another one? Should it be about something? What do you think?
I think it was a nice experience. Typically, our learning environments are more rigid and more curriculum based, and not necessarily experiential, and more towards the people that we're integrated with. But I guess like what I would like to know or get more from this experience would be how, since this is centered on education and how this learning type that we just went through, how could we maybe monetize or bring this sort of experience to a larger field, if or collectively show the benefits of this learning type, you know, to a larger scale, to show that this is something that doesn't just feel good, but is more practical.
That's awesome what you just said. I think we're going to make a highlight reel out of you, and people will see this maybe on TikTok or something. Those are some excellent so monetizing it is really interesting, because I think that educational content should be free. And, you know, as an educator, what's the future of my career? Am I going to always be in a classroom? Maybe I should be on social media. I don't know, and monetize that through advertising and clicks and stuff like that, and provide it to students. I'm not sure, but I'm open to your ideas about that.
Can I hook into what Trey said?
Sure.
I think one of the things that would help do what Trey was suggesting is to have this be a mixed audience of people. I'm finished with, I'm not finished with education. I have a learning experience every day of my life, but I'm finished teaching, and I'm finished going to a formal traditional school. But I think that if this was open to educators and professors and grammar school teachers and everybody, if it were open to the audience, a wider audience, still have the students, a group of students as well, but I think you'd get a very interesting improvement in education overall, and then also have it on social media, these discussions. I think that would be a good idea to increase the scope of who's hearing this stuff and participating.
Well, that's what you're all here for.
Yeah.
You know, it is open. We tried to invite all the people that you just talked about. It's hard to get them to show up when, you know, it's hard to get everybody all at once, all of it. You know, when do I do this, at night? You know, when can I get my audience to the game? So,
well, let's ask.
It's one of the challenges.
What are the students, some suggestions along that line, how to increase our audience?
Yeah, I think outreach, other students telling other students about these free classes, they're posted online. Go ahead, Rachel.
Well, I was just gonna ask, like, where all this, like the advertisement for this was posted, because I know I learned about it through UNCG's Lloyd International Honors College, like emails. But like, where all did you advertise?
Well, that's
like, what audiences did you try? Like,
maybe the question is, could you tell us where we should advertise?
I mean, I guess that's where like the social media presence really comes into play.
Right, because we don't have money for advertising in the commercial sense, but the question of how to reach out through social media better. For the most part, you know, Let's Learn is very new, so we're finding our audience both through the teachers reach out to their students, and then we, you know, if we know groups of people who are interested in this subject, we reach out to them. But it's an intense organizing process, and it's going to take pretty much everybody who likes it, talking not only to other students, but I would add, talking to your parents and grandparents and cousins,
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so that we do get that kind of mix that Karen's talking about.
Excellent, excellent. So we're down in the last couple of minutes of this workshop. Any other comments from folks? This is all very useful. I mean, you guys are experts in a very different way than we are about being online in social media. So anything you have to say about that is truly valuable to Let's Learn. We're trying to grow. We're trying to grow without money, which is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And we are worldwide. And I copied into the chat a link of some of the resources that I referred to, some of the stuff that I've done, and some of the things where you can get other free courses. Global Play Brigade is something that you can show up to that has the same kind of idea behind it. It's free. People learn how to do improv. You all did a fine job at doing improv. And we can always get better at doing improv. And we do that through practice and collaboration with ensembles of people. Dan has posted his email address and send them an email. Say thanks, and we can get you on the email list and we can interact in more ways. My students have my email address, and UNC students, if you want my email address, I am going to put it right there for you.
And the email is there not just for thanks, but for ideas. So if you
Yeah.
have ways we can do better outreach and ideas for classes and ideas for volunteer teachers, any and all of that are we welcome, because we're building this from the bottom up. So you can help us build it.
So if you had fun, we played, you performed a little bit, and we've talked about your activism in relationship to our activism. And so we hope that to see you again sometime or interact with you in the future. Now, with this magical technology, all things in terms of interaction are possible. So thank you all so much for showing up. I hope you had a fun time. And Dan, if you have any last words.
Just to invite you all, you know, this happens once or twice a week. We have different classes, and this Saturday, we have a class at 11 in the morning with a grouping of young people who are refugees in the refugee camps of Europe, who have created art about their experience, and they're going to talk about both their trips from Syria and wherever they've come from, and why and how they created the art, and how they hope that can help impact on the world. And so it'll be a very interesting panel. And again, it's free, and you can go to the Let's Learn webpage at the University of North Carolina Greensboro site and register. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yes, Rachel. Did Rachel disappear, or did she just say goodbye?
I think she was waving goodbye.
I see.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Yes, I can end this.